Okay.
I really like the coffee.
So this morning we're gonna talk about some of the continue with the decision structures. So first question is, do you have any questions on the if statements and the switch?
I actually like
It's rather simple, right? Very straightforward. So when we were talking about UML diagram, we have these symbols, right? And we said this is the start or stop. These are just statements. This is I/O and this is logical tests. Basically if statements, right? And we join them. We join them by arrows. So in an if statement, we have this program here. I am supposed to calculate your grades, right? And I showed you how to do with one if statement, but I have more than one student. So I gotta calculate the later grade for everybody. To make our example simple, we're gonna say you pass or you don't pass. Right? So if you go get your bachelor's and you wanna continue, the passing grade for grad school is a B, so a C is fail. I don't know what doctorate is, I haven't gotten that far yet. But so I would say if you get 80 or above, you get a B, or above, so you pass, otherwise you fail. So we have our start, we got our variable declarations, we got the input output. And then we ask the question about the grade. So if it's true, display something. If it's not true, display something else. And that's the end of the program. So the variables we're going to declare, let's put the start and stop first. Start and stop. So the variables we need is your character, or let's put a boolean to say you passed. And a double for the average. Right. And then the input output, I input the average and I ask here is the average greater or equal than 80. So if it's true, I should have done 2 blocks here, but that's okay. Print, pass. And here, print, fail. So this is false, this is true, and then I'm done, right? But then I had to ask this for each one of you. I'm not gonna stop the program and let me make it smaller. I'm not gonna start the program every time. So I'm gonna ask a question before. I'm gonna ask a question here. I have students to calculate the question. So if the answer is yes, that's what's not here. If I have students to calculate, then sure, I'll do the process. If I don't, I just go out. So basically, before I ask the average, I want to know if there's students I need to calculate. So basically, it's like 2 if statements here. And if I want to write this in a program, now, how do I ask if we get students to process or not? Let's make another variable. Let's make an int. The user enters 1, yeah, sure. Process more students. Right. Or it could be a student ID, who cares? Just have a variable where you can read. So I say, I'm gonna call this continue. And then I'm gonna ask this question, so I have students to process. So the first thing is print F here. I'm just gonna put the word continue. 1 yes, 0 no. So if I have students, let's zoom this a little bit. So to ask, I use the Scanf function, right? Easy. %d because it's a digit, and I pass the address of the continuum. So to pass the address, I use the and sign, right? I will assume the user enter 1 or 0. So the user say yes, which means if continue equals 1, right? I do something. Let's see. The user say continue, alright, then you enter the other stuff. Right, print f, enter average. And I'll use the scanf. This time I'm going to use the lone float. And then the address of the average. Nothing new there, right? When we're here, the computer doesn't know it's inside an if statement. It's just on the next instruction. So then, of course, we use an if, and I'll say if average is greater or equal than 80, which I should have declared of constants for 80. But I'm not gonna rewrite it there. So then pass is true, and you can display otherwise pass is false and failed. You'll see sometimes that people will do this. Put a comment here, and if there's another and if, and there's the and main. So we got our sections, right? Variable declaration, input. Here's our calculations. I don't have room here. Calculations and output. So this one follows this. So if I ask you to do this in a homework, you probably got an easy A, right? But then this if statement is kind of silly because why would you ask if you only have one student? Well, the idea is after I'm done here, I erase this arrow. I'm gonna do this. Let's go back and ask again. I run out of room here. So in here, I want to go back right before I ask the question. So when I go back here, right? So what I want to do, after I do this if, before I exit this and if, when I go back here, but I gotta give the user the opportunity to see if they want to continue or not. So remember I told you, if you have more than 2 lines to copy paste, you write a function. Well, we got 2 lines to copy paste here, or these 2. This one is okay. So the way it is right now, the computer is going to call top to bottom. It's going to ask the user, want to continue. Or I guess we can say start. And then if the user says yes, then you do your normal thing. And after you're done with your calculations and your output, you ask you want to continue or not. If the user says yes, enters 1, the program just exits here. So right now it's not doing anything. So the if statement here, what it's doing is testing a condition before it executes the code inside, right? So you gotta test if it's true before you do all this. So this is a pretest. We test first before we do anything. That's what the if does. But since I want to, as this curly bracket, I want to go back and ask the question again. So from this curly bracket, I want to go back here. All I gotta do is replace the word if with the word while. And now it's a loop. So instead of end if here, this will be a loop. So this while loop, we call it a pretest loop. Basically, it's like an if statement. This has to be true before it executes the inside of the loop. So now, as long as the user keeps entering 1, this code will be executed over and over and over. Make sense? What will happen if I were to comment this out? I didn't ask the user to enter this again. When will that loop stop? It won't. It's called an infinite loop. Right? So this is the body of the loop. Right? And each time the body of the loop is executed, we call that an iteration. Is that how you spell it? Iteration? Sure, I don't know. I mean, you read the chapter before coming, right? So you should know what that term is, because it's going to be in your quiz and your exam. So an iteration is, it's every time the body of the loop is executed. So there's no difference here. With the rest of the code except the word while. It used to be if. So basically it's the if statement being redone every single time. So remember at some point I told you in the if you could put the word true inside the if. That means the if will always be executed, right? Same thing here. I could do something silly like that. You know how many times that loop is going to be executed? Forever, right? You will see this, but you will see that in older programs. You see that a lot in C, C++, maybe Java. You will seldom see that. And basically, we call this a busy loop. The loop is always executing. When will you do that? For instance, when you deal with hardware. When you write stuff for hardware, you usually write it in C. And you will, for instance, you have your network card, and you don't know when the bits are gonna come in from another computer. So you got this busy loop checking, there are the new bits all the time. But other than that, don't use that, use expression. So let's say I was silly, and I did have it. Why did I erase it? I don't know. I have it like this. How do I get out of the loop?
When it equals false?
But true is never going to be false. I write the word true. How do I get out? I'll control delete end task. All right. This is a very bad practice, but you will find it in your career. I want to get out of here and stuck in this loop. I know in here that if the user enters something different than 1, to get out, right? So remember the switch statement? How to get out of a switch statement? We use the word break. That's a bad practice, but it works. If you ever, the computer sees a break, it's gonna find the closest loop and get out of it. So, if you ever see true, somewhere has to be an if statement to call a break. Just don't use it, okay? But it's there, so I gotta tell you. Questions? Yeah.
Could you use while if you like program a calculation, like a calculator program? Could you use while so that if you like continually ask the user to like enter numbers?
Yeah, well, we can. Let's write that. All right. Well, it's in video, so you can pause the video if you want to see this. I'm gonna erase it. You don't have this as a homework in another class.
No.
Because I asked one time, let's make this card game. And the student said, no, let's play rock, paper, scissors. Okay. So I wrote the whole thing. It's like, yeah, that's my homework in my C# class. I'm like, oh. Great.
But I do have.
I guess you should not take 2 science classes together, but computers, you might get away with it. So, let's write a picture. Let's make a picture first. So we start, and we got our variables. And we're gonna input the user a number, right? Then we check that number. And if it's entered yes, no, what do we do? We display the total outside the loop, and we end the program. So oh wait, I missed one. We'll just write it here. Well, maybe it's too small here. And then we go back here and ask. So these are arrows going down. So if it's yes, we go this way. If it's no, we just display the result. So we start and we end. So we're gonna need 2 variables, right? So we'll assume these are integers, and we'll assume if the user enters 0, we're done adding the numbers. So we need 2 ints. We need a input number and a total number, right? And the total, so when we declare a variable, what value do they have? They have garbage, right? So we're gonna initialize total to be 1. Or 0, I'm sorry. Should be 0 in case the user enters 0, the total is 0. So we start at 0. So we ask for the input, right? And then we ask if the input is different than 0. If it's different than 0, the total should be whatever the total had before plus the input, right? If the actual input was 0, then just output the total. So that's an easy diagram to follow, right? Even my 6-year-old nephew will figure that out. And then he'll draw other stuff on top of it. So, now we're gonna code this. So, we have our main, I'm gonna close the main here.
If you cheap can mail it to me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. So, I declare two variables, right? I can just call it that, input and total. And my total has initial value of 0, right? Then I'm gonna ask the user enter a number 0 to n, right? Or some kind of instruction. And I use the scanf, and because I'm gonna enter an integer, I should have %d, right, per digit. And then I need to have the input, but I need the address of the input, so I press the and sign. And then I ask the question if the input was different than 0. So instead of if, I'm going to use the word while, which works the same way. Okay. And then I'll ask if the input is different than 0. And this is my loop. So since it was true, I need to increment my total to be whatever the total was before, plus whatever the user entered, right? But right now I'll get stuck in an infinite loop. So I need to have some way to change this to false, which I'm gonna copy paste this for now. I encourage you to actually open your computer and try this. And so if the actual input was 0, let's see, I start from top to bottom. Oh, I need to display the output, right? So let's do this. Let's have the two variables I declared. I have the variable input, I have the variable total. And they're in memory somewhere, right? The next line is I set total to be 0. Okay, total is 0. Enter a number 0 to n. So I scan. Let's say the user enters number 10. Next line. Is 10 different than 0? Yes, it is. then I see the equal sign, so I'm gonna do the right side first. So I see this. Total is 0, input is 10, so it's 10. And I see the equal sign, and then, oh, I gotta put that answer into the total, so put 10 there. And I ask again, enter a number, 0 to n, and I scan this again. And now let's say the user enters the number 7. I hit this loop, this loop. And it's gonna find the matching curly bracket, right? So it goes back up here. So, because the computer reads top to bottom, it needs to find a way to go up to a different line. So it sees this and says, oh, there's a loop, let's find the matching while. It's right here. And it says, what was the input? Oh, 7. Is 7 different than 0? Yeah, it is. So it sees this first. So total is 10, input 7, so 17. Oh, I gotta put that in the total. And then goes again here. Yes?
If you're setting the total to 0 and the input for while is always 0, would that not ever run? Because it's always 0?
So, let me finish and I'll answer your question. So let's say now the user enters 0. So input now is 0. I hit this loop and I go back again up. And it says, is 0 different than 0? Nope. Then I don't execute this inside, right? So I just go outside the curly bracket and I just print out the 17. Now your question is, what if they enter 0 at the beginning? So it's right here, right? Let's follow up along. So I declare those two variables. Then I'm here. I set total to 0, right? Enter a number. And I scan. And the user enters 0. While 0 different than 0 is false, right? So where do I go? Find the curly bracket that matches the exit of the loop. And it just goes out, print your total is 0. And exits out. So yes, the code inside is never executed. That's why this is a pretest loop. So this is your pretest loop. It's like your if statement. This portion is what makes, well actually not this portion, it's just the bottom one, the other is just a label. So this line makes possible the loop to end at some point, hopefully. So I'm gonna call this escape clause. So if you write this in your computer, it should work, right? Question? Yeah.
Printf says enter a number 0 to n. Is n the one of the things that the user can type in?
What are you inputting? Are you putting letters or numbers?
Letters. The word n, or what is n?
What is D?
Just digits, integers.
Okay, so you're only entering integers, right? So if the user enters letters, what happens?
Garbage.
Error.
It crashes, right? Yeah, so no. The user just gonna put any numbers. I just didn't want to write the whole instruction there. You can type it if you want.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Okay, any other questions? Alright, I need coffee.